Challenge Call with Max and Avery. I'm your host, Max.
And I am Avery. How are you guys?
All right, we were actually recording a day later than we normally do. Yesterday didn't work out very well, so we actually are recording on a Friday night right now. Not a ton different. Episode will be a little delayed in coming out. Won't get out till Saturday morning, but hopefully it'll still get out before most of the college football kickoffs occur. Avery, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I just got off work, so I'm ready to rock and roll. Oh, I have a new jersey, Montez Sweat jersey. Got this one off NFL Shop, but I also ordered a DJ Moore jersey off TikTok Shop. And
There you go.
I ordered that back in August, and it just arrived. So right in time for the Bears to get eliminated this week.
That's right. I'm just sitting here currently watching Colorado lose to Washington State. Washington State actually just scored again, so they are now down 20, about to be 21-7, assuming they make this kick. Yep, okay, down 21-7. Sadly, I don't think they are making a bowl anytime this year, but kind of glad this game was on tonight because I will be busy Saturday. As you know, I'm going to be going to Iowa versus Illinois this weekend with my dad, so that'll be a good time.
There you go, man. I'm excited for that game, but that's more to continue later. But since you're talking about Iowa, you want to get into our first sports news that we have?
Let's do it. First chunk of sports news we have. Iowa women's basketball team, ranked number 2 in the country, actually just lost yesterday to Kansas State, unranked team. 65-58. What happened to Iowa?
Well, I think it's just the trap game, to be honest. I mean, it's early in the year, right? It's really early in the year. College basketball just started, and they just couldn't shoot the three, man. Like, the girls, that's Caitlin Clark's, biggest thing. And, if your whole team goes 2 for 21 on three-pointers, that's rough. And so I think that's, the big deal. I think it's one of those games, it's like you burn the film. You watch it once, you're like, oh, fuck, we suck that game. We were just not on. You burn the film, and you move on from there.
Yeah, it was not a great reflection. That's just, like you said, they were 9.5% from three. Caitlin Clark herself was 12.5% from three-point line, so she was definitely having an off day, but that's just crazy. Everywhere else, they looked fairly normal. Free throws, they were doing slightly better than Kansas State was. Regular baskets, 2 points, they were doing okay-ish there. But just the threes is what absolutely killed them. And also turnovers. They turned over the ball 16 times compared to Kansas State's 9 times. So that's almost twice as many. When you're doing that, you're not going to win a lot of games.
Yeah, no, it's not pretty. And then, unfortunately, the men's Iowa basketball team, they ended up dropping one to Creighton. It's weird because I so wanted to go to this game. I thought I was going to be able to. I thought the time, and then I found out the game started at 9:30. Iowa lost 92-84. But I looked 15 minutes before the game started, and tickets were $4. And a part of me was like, do I just go to this game by myself? This is the moments I wish you lived in Omaha, Nebraska, right here, because I would have texted you, Max, what are you doing tonight?
Or you could live in Cedar Rapids or Iowa City, Iowa, and this could actually happen more often than once a year. As
Fair.
I went to a women's basketball game already and could go to plenty more with the stadium being right there.
Fair. That is fair. I mean, you're a 20-minute drive from Carver Arena?
28, yeah.
Yeah. It's not a bad drive. Not a bad drive at all. But unfortunately, there's some bright spots, right? It was a close game. It was tied going into the second half. And Creighton is Elite 18 from last year. And they returned pretty much all of their starters.
And Creighton is currently ranked number 8 right now. So,
ranked 8.
I mean, the Iowa loss, or the men's loss is much more expected. The women's loss was a huge upset, probably just a fluke. I wouldn't read too much into it. But the men being able to hang in there a little bit with Creighton, that's a decent sign, actually.
Yeah, no, and I think that's going to lead us into more in the future this year. I think Iowa's got a good men's program this year. And I'll tell you what, Sanford, is balling out this year. And I think I called that at last year when we were talking who's going to step up for Iowa next year after Chris Murray leaves. Well, Sanford's the guy, I think.
I'm going to pull the tape because you like to credit yourself for saying a lot of things. I don't know if you've ever actually said them before. But we will check into that.
Pull the tape.
All right. Well, other news going on in the Big Ten here on a more football-related note. Jim Harbaugh is serving a 3-game suspension for all the scandals going on in Michigan. They also just fired their linebackers coach, Chris Partridge. Yeah. I don't know if that's related to all the scandal allegation stuff. Michigan declined to comment on it, but you got to think something is going on there too.
For sure. Yeah, no, I just saw that. You got to think that he was in cahoots with Connor Stallion. Because it was defensive signs they were stealing, offensive signs they were stealing. Yeah, because the defense knew every play. And so, the linebacker coach had to know a lot about this. I mean, it's weird that it's not the defensive coordinator, like you say. The head coach has to know about what's going on under him. And so, are they just trying to find another scapegoat like they did with Connor Stallion? Or is this, Michigan as a program altogether?
Yeah, something about Michigan's program right now is just because even with the Harbaugh suspension, I saw some stuff that was talking about Michigan's acceptance of it was a little strange. Like you're just going to allow your head coach to be suspended. You're not going to try to fight back at all or anything. You're just accepting it. Should that be a little fishy? Do they know something's going on here?
For sure. Well, and did you see Sharon Moore? He's the interim head coach right now. He's the offensive coordinator for Michigan. Did you see his post-game speech when they beat Penn State? It was hilarious. No. Oh my God, dude. He literally acted like Jim Harbaugh died. He was crying and he was like, "This one's for you, man. This one's for you. They want to keep us down, blah, blah, blah." And it was just God, dude, he didn't die. He's just.
I did see something talking about his speech being as if Jim Harbaugh had passed away and wasn't just having a small suspension. You're calm down there, guy. Your big first win as an interim head coach, I guess. I get it, but let's take it down a notch.
For sure. Well, and hey, this is good for other coaches on the Michigan staff. You mentioned as an organization, what's going on, at Michigan, everything seems fishy. But there's guys like Sharon Moore that get to showcase what they have as a head coach. Sharon Moore, if they lead Michigan to 3-0 and the next, which they're already 1-0, so 2-0 in the next 2 games and a big win against Ohio State also, that's going to be huge for the Michigan program. And that's going to be huge for Sharon Moore, especially if Jim Harbaugh gets banned by college football this year, because Sharon Moore might be why go hire someone? I'm right here. This is my team. The players responded to me being the interim head coach. This is my program. I can build this program, and I can build it to the same level Jim Harbaugh built it. So
I feel like we see interim head coaches just fill that spot. We're just going to keep you around because you've been doing it. You're already here, so we're just going to keep you on. I feel like I see that quite a few places happening.
For sure. So I think that's going to be awesome to see. Also, another college news that we didn't put, Jimbo Fisher for Texas A&M got fired. And it's the biggest payout in college football history. They have to pay Jimbo Fisher a lot of money just not to coach Texas A&M.
Which that's the craziest thing about, I know we've talked about it in the office a little bit of a Division I job being stressful, but then it was after the Jimbo Fisher news, they were actually is it all that stressful? I mean, think about it. You lose your job and you still make millions. 1 year, even whether you keep your job or not, you get paid more than you probably would be being a D3 coach your whole life.
You ready for this? $76.8 million over the next 10 years.
Oh, I know.
He gets 28 of it this year, just to not coach for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah,
that's insane. That is, I need to be a fired college football head coach.
Yeah, no, that is the easiest I shouldn't say easiest, but like that is like the most stress-free job ever, right? Like,
Right.
hey, I'm either gonna do a good job, and if I don't, I'm still gonna get paid a shit ton of money. Like, I would take that in a heartbeat.
For sure, 100%. But yeah, no, Jimbo is now gone also, so Texas A&M has officially. Also, I saw two interesting candidates for the Texas A&M. A little off kilter here. One is Dan Campbell of the Detroit Lions as the alma mater, but I don't see that happening because
Yeah, why would he leave the Lions to go
exactly.
to Texas A&M?
And then the second is Matt Campbell, which started as a graduate assistant at Texas A&M, which I could see because Texas A&M and Matt Campbell, like that would be a step up from Iowa State. So could we see the Cyclones having a new head coach, especially
I,
after Matt Campbell? He's righted the ship this year. Like
yeah,
it's
I think the way Iowa State is going right now and everything with Matt Camp, I think he's kind of ready to be out of there. I don't think he wants to be there anymore.
for sure.
So I think there's a good chance that makes way more sense than
Then
Dan Campbell leaving the Lions to go there. But speaking of college football a little bit, we are going to go ahead and do our Heisman candidate race update. You know, we've missed this for a couple weeks now. We kind of had a week off of it from when we would normally do it. But number one, as always, in our race right now, Michael Penix Jr., quarterback out of Washington, still killing the game. Thoughts?
dude, he's a beast. That's all I can say. Like against Utah, I mean, he threw for 332 yards and two TDs. So I mean, and this year, man, like just look at the numbers compared to any other quarterback. Like he has 300 yards more passing than Bo Nix, which is the second leading guy. 28 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. This guy is a pro-ready NFL quarterback, and he's showing that in Washington. Sorry, I'm choking here. The thing with Michael Penix Jr., and I've said it before, is just his determination. He went through a lot of injuries early on in his college career, which would have set any quarterback back. And just seeing him perform day out and day in and day out, and see him like transition Washington Huskies into a powerhouse. They're ranked fifth right now in college football, and I don't know if Oregon can beat them. I know they didn't beat them the first time, and in the Pac-12 championship, I don't know. I don't know because they have a good program in Washington.
So it'll be interesting to see who actually competes and ends up taking that Pac-12 championship. But before you have to worry about Oregon, they have Oregon State coming up next week, currently the 10th ranked team. This could be an interesting game because this could ultimately be the end of the Pac-12 eating the Pac-12. You know, Oregon State comes out, upsets Washington. Now nobody's going to be able to crack playoffs just because everyone's going to have one loss all to each other.
Which that plays into my prediction of Alabama making it in the college football playoffs.
It really doesn't because they're still much below like half of these teams.
No, Alabama is going to make the college football playoffs. You watch and see. I mean, I know they're still ranked 8th, but they're going to make the college football playoffs. But
All right.
that's besides.
Number two, my favorite candidate to win it all, Bo Nix out of Oregon. Speaking of Oregon, Oregon is currently ranked number 6. Bo Nix, kind of like you alluded to, 3,135 yards, 29 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. Playing a hell of a game. I actually looked up the completion percentages and stuff. He has the highest completion percentage in college football right now.
It's impressive what Bo Nix is doing. Like, if he would have, like, a lot of people wanted him to declare for the draft last year, and he would have been a third-round pick, third and fourth-round pick. Now he comes out, and this is like a prove-it season for him, and he's just balled out all year. And Oregon and Dan Lanning is doing incredible things in Oregon too. So I don't know, like you're right. Like it could be if Oregon State goes out and then like a one-loss Oregon team versus a one-loss Washington team, they could cannibalize each other, and neither of them make a bowl game. Unfortunate, but it's a real possibility. But Bo Nix is a stud, and I'm gonna say that until I'm blue in the face. I wouldn't be opposed to drafting Bo Nix in Chicago.
No, I would love to take Bo Nix.
I still want Michael Penix, but I think Michael Penix is a better athlete.
Sure, but I have no issues drafting Bo Nix whatsoever. That's if the Bears had Bo Nix next year, I would be all on board. Jersey Bob, like that.
Yeah, for sure, dude.
All right, why don't you go ahead and give us our next guy in the race?
Mr. Jordan Travis from Florida State. He has the Florida State Seminoles that rank fourth right now, 2,734 yards, 20 TDs, and 2 interceptions. 81.5 quarterback rating. So they play North Alabama next, so you don't think – I think this is a stat game for him. I think he goes out, he throws like 4 TDs, 5 TDs, and he boosts his numbers. But right now, he has very pedestrian numbers. And I don't –
There's a huge drop-off at this point. Like, you look at number 1 and number 2, Michael Penix and Bo Nix, and they're in the 3,000s. They're in the high 20s, getting close to 30 on touchdowns. And then you come down to Jordan Travis. You drop down to the 2,000s for passing yards. Barely cracked 20 for the touchdowns right there. Even the QBR, the QBR you rated, he's the 13th highest QBR compared to Michael Penix Jr. is the 5th and Bo Nix is the 3rd. Guess who has the number 1 QBR right now in college football?
Who?
Yes,
Shedeur Sanders? Shedeur Sanders?
No.
Who?
You know it. Come on. Who's got it? Who did you like to talk about in the Heisman race? Not even mentioned.
Oh, Jaden Daniels.
Jaden Daniels, LSU, has the number 1 QBR right now in college football.
Okay, we need to put respect on this man's name. I know he's not in our list, but this guy has been balling out for LSU all year, man. How is he not in the top 5 for Heisman candidates?
I genuinely don't know because I want to say I'm gonna go back and look right now, but I want to say even his passing yards was up there in the 3,000s.
3,164.
Yeah.
3,000. He has more than Bo Nix does. 30 touchdowns. He has more than Michael Penix does.
You want to know the issue? The issue on why he's not in the Heisman candidacy, which is the biggest issue ever, is LSU is ranked 15th.
Yeah, and they have 3 losses. But look at their team, man. Like, if you look at this, dude, and you just genuinely look at it, their offense hasn't put – the lowest they put up all year was 28, and that was on Alabama. The lowest they put up all year. Our highest we put up is like 28 as the Iowa Hawkeyes. So, no, it's like 37. But still, like, it is right there, right there. He is literally carrying this football team into a top 20. He
is getting absolutely cheated by what sounds like LSU's defense right now, but just absolutely cheated by the people who come up with do these votes and stuff. Like you said, if you're scoring over 28 points a game, and you're saying way over 28 points a game because that's the lowest. That's a minimum. That's not even the average. Average, I'm assuming they're up closer to the 30s, maybe 40. But, like, when you are having that kind of a high-caliber offense and you have 3 losses, you got to be looking at that defense going, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, no, so I just looked it up. The offense now is ranked 2nd in college football, and the Tigers' defense is ranked 69 in college football. So that's very pathetic. That is ridiculous. So, like, it's kind of weird because LSU is facing the same odds the Iowa Hawkeyes are, just versus, like, flipped roles.
Yeah, well, guess what? Without looking at it, first do the offense, total offense. Where's Iowa ranked out of 130 teams?
103rd.
130.
130?
Yes.
Oh my God.
For total offense, Iowa is 130th out of 130 teams. Now guess what defenses and total defense?
8th. 8th. We're in 8th place. Are we?
Yes, we are. Yeah. We're in 8th place for total defense.
Yeah, I knew we were in the top 10. I thought it was 8. Yeah, we're in 8 right now. Iowa's defense is incredible, top 10 defense. And I'm not going to lie, I think in college football, it's more impressive to have a top 10 defense than it is to have a top 10 offense.
For sure. I feel like we see a lot of offenses that are out there scoring all the time. There's Michigan, there's USC, there's LSU. Like, we have all these high-caliber offenses going out there just putting on a show. But cheer on to defense. Defense is hard to fucking do. If you can stop a team, it is the hardest thing to do to stop a team from moving the ball.
For sure. And I want to talk about something real quick too. I know we're going through Heisman, but since we're on Jaden Daniels, like we could see an Iowa Hawkeyes versus LSU Tigers in a bowl game this year, and
Yeah.
it would be really, really weird to see because, like, what wins? Does the defense step up and win, or does the offense? And it's impressive to have a top 10 defense, but at the same time, if you have a high power in offense, it's hard because one big play can change the whole demographic of that game.
It's all about the number of shots you can get up. If you can
Yeah.
complete enough shots, you're going to win the game.
For sure.
If that matchup came to fruition, LSU wins that. Iowa's defense. There's nothing they could do in terms of their offense. Look, we just said they're 130th in offense.
Yeah.
Like that ain't going to put up dick against LSU.
No, not at all. Because they're not bad. Well, they're bad defensively. They are. They're bad defensively. But 69th compared to 130th.
Yeah.
That's
There is 130 teams. So 69th, you're still talking the upper third.
right. Yeah, 100%.
Or
But
upper half. Upper half.
yeah, upper half. But yeah, no. So Jaden Daniels, man, he's my honorable mention this week. I know we don't do honorable mentions, but he's my honorable mention because, like, over Jordan Travis, even JJ McCarthy, our next candidate that we can get into, but he's better than both of those guys combined. And just because he has 3 losses on his record because their defense can't stop Dick, it doesn't matter. He's still keeping LSU in every single game and winning most of their games. So
I'm in 100% agreement with you there. I think he needs to be given more credit than he is, especially over, as you mentioned, and we'll get into it, J.J. McCarthy, who has 2,194 yards. So that really drops off the cliff right there. Like, you're barely breaking 2,000 yards. Big whoop. 18 touchdowns, not even in the 20s yet, 3 interceptions. The one thing he does have going for him is he does have the second highest QBR at 92.7. But, I mean, still second highest to number 1, Jaden Daniels.
for sure. But this is going to sound weird because it's from, like, the SEC used to have great defenses in the SEC. And now I feel like they don't. It's kind of became like that Big 12 equivalent that everybody puts up numbers. And the Big Ten, they still hold true to great defenses. Like, and that's why I think JJ's kind of a little bit slacking on where he's at with the passing yards and passing TDs. But like Penn State has a great defense. Like, who else did they play? Nebraska. Like Nebraska has a really good defense this year. Indiana has a good defense. Minnesota. So like you look at some of these teams, and of course he's going to have lower numbers. It's not always about the stats. It's what you mean to that team. But and Jaden Daniels, like he does mean a lot to LSU because I guarantee they're a 4-8 team like Colorado. If it wasn't for Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors, but JJ McCarthy, he does mean a lot to the Michigan Wolverines, and I think that's why he is in the top 4.
Definitely. The way defenses can help out a quarterback with certain things like that, or even like you're saying, it's not always about the stats. Yes, sometimes it's about competition too. Like, I could put up great stats against a fucking middle school team or some shit, you know? Like, who are you playing? Like, that's the true thing that has to weigh into it a little bit too. I don't know if they fully take that into consideration when they do the voting and stuff for this, but I would assume there has to be a little bit of it.
I agree, 100%. But I think speaking of the Big Ten and speaking of this, and we got another non-quarterback on our list still. Marvin Harrison still reigning in the top 5, which I really don't think. I don't understand why he is in the Heisman race. I mean, he does.
This is another thing. This is another, like, I was trying to figure this out too, and I looked at like total receiving yards, yards per reception, fucking touchdowns. He does not lead or he's not first in college football in any of those categories. So I don't understand how, like, he's being considered for a Heisman when he's arguably not even like leading a single category in receiving for college football.
Well, and we talked about LSU. Malik Neighbors probably should be getting a lot of this credit right now. He's at 1,284 yards, leading the nation in receiving yards. 10 TDs, which, I mean, of course, Marvin Harrison has more, but still, like, that's an impressive stat line right there. Um, so I just don't understand. Like, I don't understand. And I'm not saying, I'm not diminishing, because Marvin Harrison is probably the best wide receiving prospect that we've seen come into the NFL in a long time. He does mean a lot to the Ohio State Buckeyes. I just don't think he belongs in the Heisman race. If anything, I think other players like Cooper DeJean or uh, um, Malik Neighbors, Troy Franklin, or someone like that definitely belong in the Heisman
And
race.
that's that a big thing of what you just meant, like Cooper DeJean in the Heisman race. Um, defensive player right there. When was the last time a defensive player was even considered for a Heisman? Because I know we talk about it being a total quarterback show, which it is. Obviously, there's 4 quarterbacks in the top 4 positions. Even all the quarterbacks are listed above Marvin Harrison Jr. But it's
So
all offensive players.
yeah, so the last time a defensive player received a vote in the Heisman race was in 2019, and that was Chase Young for Ohio State, defensive end. So yeah, Chase Young. Like, and the last time Ndamukong Suh finished for Nebraska, 3rd in the Heisman race. And the last time a defensive player won the Heisman was Charles Woodson in 1997.
I was
So
born that year.
yeah, the last time a defensive player in the Heisman race that won it was Charles Woodson, which went on to be a Hall of Fame cornerback in the NFL. But that's the last time a defensive player, and he was also a two-way player. He played a lot of time at receiver, and he played as a cornerback.
So that definitely helps his odds. That like you can say he was the last defensive player to win it, but I don't even know if you can truly say that when you're considering that he plays both ways.
True.
But that's the thing right there, is just because what stats do defensive guys put up? You know, like Cooper DeJean, outside of interceptions, it's like, the stats aren't glorious.
I mean,
Like
you got
you can look at the number of targets that receivers they're covering get, the number of completions the receivers get that like they're covering, stuff like that. But those aren't glamorous, you know. Those aren't like 2,000 passing yards or 1,200 receiving yards. You know, like that's the issue. Is I feel like defensive guys get the short end of the stick a little bit when it comes to things like these.
And the last time a player came close was in 2012, and he came second, and it was Manti Te'o. And I remember Manti Te'o at Notre Dame. I remember the hype for Manti Te'o. A part of it was the sob story of his girlfriend passing when he didn't really have a girlfriend. But it's always a good podcast when you can bring up Manti Te'o. I love that story.
Just every time you say the name, I can't help but think about it. I'm like, stop saying it.
Oh, but yeah, Manti Te'o was second, and he even lost to Johnny Manziel, Johnny Football. And so, who was that? A quarterback. And so, even at that time, like, a defensive player still, even with the sob story, as dominant as you are in college football, you still will not win the Heisman race. And that's when it comes back. It's a quarterback award. So stop putting these players like Marvin Harrison in it just to get clicks, just to get likes, because you know you're going to give it to Michael Penix Jr. or you're going to give it to Bo Nix. And that's where college football is kind of stupid in a way, because it's like, it's not who does the most for their team. Because if you put who does the most for their team, the clear winner right now would probably either be Jaden Daniels for the LSU Tigers, or it would be probably Cooper DeJean for the Iowa fucking Hawkeyes.
Definitely. Because even aside from just defensively, what DeJean does, special teams, like being our punt returner, he's scored multiple times, or at least should have scored multiple times this season just on punt returns. So he still has all-purpose yards. You know, he still has returning yards. He's had interceptions. Like, definitely, I think Cooper DeJean would be a big one who would probably be in that candidacy race. But speaking of Iowa a little bit, we'll get into our college recap. Iowa last played Rutgers last Saturday. I watched a little bit of this game. I can't remember last weekend very well, but Iowa did end up getting the dub, 22-0 So you want to talk about defense and Cooper DeJean? Rutgers got zilch on them.
I love Iowa defense. I love Iowa's defense. Like every time I watch their defense, and it's just a slow death for the other team because they slowly just drain the air out of you. And I love it. It's suffocating. Their defense, and that's what you want from a defensive team. It's suffocating. And dude, you want to hear something crazy? The last 4 weeks, Iowa has put up opposing teams has put up 17, 23 points in the last 5 weeks. That's the 5 weeks, 23 points.
Just over 4 points a game.
Just over 4 points a game. And that defense is starting to hit on all cylinders. Against the Rutgers, like Rutgers was no slump. They were 6-3 going into that game, and a lot of people said that they were the fourth best team in the conference. They just didn't care about the West, and because Rutgers has played some good teams in the East, and we came out and we showed everybody up because 22-0 is impressive. Deacon Hill had the best game of his career. He had 233 yards passing, which was...
He did not look bad at all. They either switched up what they were doing, or he got a little confidence, or I don't know what they did, but he actually looked like a decent, or I don't want to say good quarterback per se, competent.
Yeah.
He's doing much, much better. Compared to the Northwestern game and games before that, where nothing was happening for Iowa looked like they actually had something of an offense that could string together a few plays.
So let me ask you a hypothetical here. Cade McNamara gets a medical red shirt because he played 4 games or 3 games for the Iowa Hawkeyes this year. He gets granted a 6th. He'll be a 6-year senior at this point.
He's already said he's coming back.
Yeah. So he is going to get a medical red shirt then?
Yes.
Okay, so is Cade your starting quarterback next year, or is it Deacon Hill?
It's Cade.
No, I don't necessarily agree. I liked what I saw from Deacon Hill. I mean, I do think Cade McNamara is a great leader for the Iowa Hawkeyes, but at some point you got to go younger. You do got to go younger and let this guy develop. You got to let him develop. You got to let him see what he has. He's a sophomore, man. He's a sophomore. You can't let him sit on the bench and let him play his senior year and just have a 1-year gap. You got to let this guy play unless you redshirt the guy next year, but then you're at the possibility of him transferring. I do think Deacon Hill has all the talent in the world to be a good college football quarterback. I'm not saying he's going to be a great NFL quarterback or anything by that means, but I think he has a lot of potential to be a good college football quarterback.
You're not necessarily wrong. Sure, he has great potential, to be a good college quarterback, but your reasoning, I don't care. Cade is a better quarterback. You're not going to play the better quarterback just so you can get your not as good quarterback more snap. That's not how football works.
I get that, but this is the second year that Cade McNamara second year in a row that Cade McNamara has gotten hurt, season-ending injury. It goes back to the injury situations.
Okay, so play Cade until he gets injured, and then you're going to have Hill playing anyway. Why start Hill?
It doesn't make sense because it messes up the continuity of the football team. It messes up the chemistry of the football team. You saw how rocky we looked the last 2 games when Deacon Hill came in with not playing.
Because Deacon Hill had never started a game before.
I agree, but at the same time, I do love Cade McNamara, and I think he does bring a special quality to the Iowa Hawkeyes, but it also depends who the offensive coordinator is going to be next year. And
that is true. We could be looking at a whole different situation offensively based on who they bring in and what they want to do and whatnot. But
for sure.
Even to your argument, though, Deacon could be good and everything. I think we actually have a really good freshman that came in. And so, if anything, yes, Cade is going to start. If Cade returns and he comes back, you're not playing Hill over Cade. That's not a good move whatsoever. You can get Deacon in the game. You can, if we're blowing somebody out or something, obviously you play your backups, you get them reps, whatever. But if Cade is good and like can play, you play Cade.
If he comes back to full potential. Like, if he doesn't come back to full potential, I don't know if you play him, man.
I mean, sure, you open up the quarterback battle like
That's what I'm saying.
No, that's not what you're saying. No, that's not what you're saying. You didn't say open up the quarterback battle and see who's better. You said, oh, you should start Deacon Hill because he's younger. That is what you said.
All right. But what I'm trying to say is open up a quarterback battle, and if Deacon Hill looks better, start Deacon Hill.
Sure. If he looks better.
Don't let the name Cade McNamara dictate the situation, because that's what Kirk Ferentz has done in the past. I remember a specific situation from 2014 and 2015. We had Jake Rudock, that was a 4-year starter for the Iowa Hawkeyes, and we had a sophomore, C.J. Beathard, on the bench. And in 2014, we went with fucking Jake Rudock all fucking year. And it was
sure, because there is a level of seniority to it. Like, especially with Kirk. Like, that's the kind of system that Kirk's run. Like, there is, and you're always going to have that a little bit, especially if guys are both kind of borderline, like right there on the fence. You typically go with the more seniority. Like, now I lost track a little bit because that was slightly side commented. But no, yeah, I'm saying you play the battle court. Obviously, if there's a quarterback battle and Deacon Hill is better than Cade, I kind of did say you go with Cade because he's the better quarterback. But that is the key right there. You go with the better quarterback.
Okay, and that's what I'm saying. And that, I think we were both on two different sides thinking of it two different ways. But there is one more thing, and it didn't happen during the Rutgers game. It actually happened in practice. Cooper DeJean is out for the rest of the year. We've already mentioned how much he means to our program. And fuck, that's just gonna suck. I mean, I don't think we lose to newsflash, we play Illinois in the upcoming game. That's our upcoming game. Max, you will be there.
I will be there. We'll go straight into it since we don't have any more college football recap. But upcoming, Iowa versus Illinois. It is Iowa's senior night. It is kicking off at 2:30 p.m. tomorrow. I will be there at the game, praying to God that we don't lose because our best player is out.
Well, and I want to say something. Like, it sucks that we lose Cooper DeJean, but he stepped in for Riley Moss, and we have a really great player that probably will step up this week, and I'm hoping Sebastian Castro. He has performed all year. Sebastian Castro has been a beast, and I think this is his moment to shine, and he can say, hey, I'm no Cooper DeJean, but I have juice. I have the juice. I can perform.
They're different positions, though.
That's true. That is true. So, but still, and I'm not talking about on a defensive position, but I'm talking as a leader of that defense. And that's
sure.
what.
Yeah, there's plenty of guys that lead that defense.
Evans. This is a game where the leader's gonna have to step up because we did lose a big prominent part of our defense. And
there's plenty of guys that lead that defense. Yeah. I'm not worried about leadership with DeJean being out necessarily, but it's going to be hard for everybody else to just kind of pick up that slack of him not being in the backfield. You kind of open up the possibility for an offense because you don't have to avoid that guy.
Right. Oh, he has a broken fibula. So, yeah. I mean, if that would have happened in the beginning of the season, we probably would have seen him back week 11, week 12. It's not like a torn ACL. I mean, a fibula does take a lot of time to recover. And I think the aspect of reason why he will not be playing the rest of the year, one, it's going to take time to recover, but he potentially could have been back for a bowl game. But I think Cooper DeJean has his eyes set on the NFL.
I would agree. I think it would make sense for him to this shouldn't hurt his draft stock too much. I think everybody knows fully well who Cooper DeJean is, how awesome he is, what he does for a team. And if anything, this is just him being like, okay, well, time for the draft. This is going to get straight. I'll be healed up, whatever, but I'm done with college football now.
I agree, which sucks because we never would have thought that Cooper DeJean's last game would have been against Rutgers and a shutout, which really sucks. What's the repercussions if we lose this game against Illinois? Like if we win, we're in.
Outside of me being very, very disappointed that the one game I get to go to is a loss, the repercussions aren't really much, honestly.
No, there's a lot. So I know me and you have both mentioned. We both mentioned that we do not want to go to the Big Ten championship, but
with Cooper DeJean out now, I definitely don't want to go. I would have been I wouldn't have minded it because I'm a little curious to see how our defense would do against a Michigan or an Ohio State right now because I think our defense is pretty solid. But if we don't have Cooper DeJean, then yeah, that's a rough one to see.
And it's scary, right? Because like if we win this game, we're in, and we just got to face the music, right?
We're in now. Like,
No, we have a share of the Big Ten West. There's a potential we're not in the Big Ten championship game.
Who replaces us?
So if Nebraska wins against Northwestern and Illinois, if they win against Wisconsin and then beat Iowa in the last game of the year, Nebraska goes to the Big Ten West. They win the Big Ten, or they win a share of the Big Ten West, and they go to the Big Ten championship game. Like, we're not completely in. We only own a share of the Big Ten championship game. We only own a share of the Big Ten West. There's still a potential other schools can make it. I mean, Iowa
would have to win 2, and we would have to lose 2.
Lose both of them. Yep, we would have to lose to Illinois, and next week in Lincoln, Nebraska, they could beat us and go to the Big Ten championship, which is disgusting to even think about. I don't like that. So I'd rather face the fucking music and we beat Illinois this week and we go get our ass handed to us by the fucking Michigan Wolverines because I don't want to see the Cornhuskers have a leg up against us and say, well, guess what? We beat Wisconsin this week. Next week we're coming for you guys. And they beat us last year. And there's
the big key will be that if, too. If they beat Wisconsin this week. There's a good chance that they do it. I don't think Wisconsin is that great. And they're still missing their starting quarterback, right? Their starting quarterback is out as well.
Yeah, but and it doesn't matter who starts for Nebraska this year at quarterback. They suck. Or are you talking about
I'm talking about Wisconsin.
Yeah, their starting quarterback's still out too. Tanner don't not know how to pronounce that last name. But yeah, no, there is still a potential that there's still a potential. But yeah, Nebraska is actually the second favorite to win the Big Ten West.
Which is crazy right now.
Which is crazy.
Just Iowa and Nebraska sitting at the top is not what I'd say you're probably used to seeing. Iowa, normally floats around there a little bit, but normally Nebraska floats around the bottom. You have Wisconsin up top somewhere there. So things are looking a little weird in the West. Also, just speaking record-wise in the Big Ten West, there is number 1, Iowa at 5-2, and then there is a
4-way
five-way tie. There is a 5-way tie for second place at 3-4.
You want to hear a funny thing that I heard? So the Big Ten West puts the mid in the Midwest because that's what it is. They put the mid in the Midwest. It is bad. Which there's another team that I would hate to see just because the way they beat us is Minnesota. Minnesota could win out. Iowa loses to Illinois and Nebraska. Northwestern beats Illinois, and if Wisconsin beats Nebraska, Minnesota is in, which they do have a lot more than Nebraska does to get into the Big Ten. Nebraska just needs Illinois to beat us and them to beat us, and they're in. But yeah, Minnesota
plays Ohio State.
So I
do not think they are in whatsoever.
But yeah, and Illinois has a good shot too. Like Nebraska loses to Wisconsin but beats Iowa, and Minnesota beats Wisconsin, and Illinois wins out, so they beat us. Like Illinois has.
It's just the conference to some degree is anybody's game right now.
It is, and so we own a share of the Big Ten West, but what does that matter? That doesn't matter shit. Almost it only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. games like that.
Horseshoe hand grenades and slow dancing.
And slow dancing. There you
It's
go.
close. Close only counts in horseshoe hand grenades and slow
But
dancing.
yeah, so like it doesn't matter, man. Like I mean, we just need to beat Illinois because I do not want the game to come down to next week against fucking Nebraska. That would be terrible.
No, I want to see 2 wins. I want to see us beat Illinois and Nebraska and hopefully put up the best fight we possibly can against Michigan or Ohio State. We don't necessarily know who it's going to be. But I'm okay with going to the championship and just having it be rough because ultimately I want Kirk to go out on a high note. You know, like I don't know if he says he's coming back. We don't know. We're a little suspicious about it. But one way or another, I want a good overall season. We're sitting 8-2 total right now. Let's finish that up 10-2.
I would love that. I would love that because that just shows Iowa is consistent, and I like consistent. Well, and we already got there, so there's a chance we could lose the next 2 games. Fuck, that would suck. But anyways, like yeah, college football, man. Big Ten, the Midwest, they're mid.
Another big college football game, as we kind of alluded to earlier. We already mentioned it, but number 10 Oregon State versus number 5 Washington. This is going to be Saturday night, 6:30. So I might actually be able to watch this, be done with the Iowa game, probably be home. I want Washington to win it because I want Washington to keep their up. I would love to see them make the playoffs. They're 1 spot away right now, but I would love to see them be able to crack into that number 4 spot.
I would like it. I think it would be a good change of pace for Washington to make the playoffs. I know they've made the playoffs once back in 20. I don't know the exact. It was in the early 2000s, or 2010s. But I know seeing Washington in the playoffs would be really cool again. So I do want Washington to go. I'm a big supporter, avid fan of Michael Penix Jr., and I want him to be successful. So I need Washington just to go out, win this game, and not even have it be close. Because I think this is a Heisman game for Michael Penix to show a lot of people up and be like, hey, I am the Heisman favorite.
Yeah, it very well could be too. And especially with a top 10 opponent in Oregon State, that's something to prove, that's a battle you can put up and you can say, hey, this is what could be considered an NFL caliber defense right now. Here's what I can do to it. But moving on into some MFL, I think we've talked plenty of college so far. We will go ahead and recap our Bears-Panthers that we had on Thursday night. Now, we already, in our last episode, we actually did a bit of a live talk during the game. We kind of covered the second quarter as well as a little bit into the third. But if you missed that, definitely go back and give it a listen. But we will recap the final score, 16-13. That's a Big Ten score if I've ever seen one. But this is the NFL. And the Bears' defense isn't that great. The Panthers' offense just blows as well.
Well, and I disagree with what you just said. The Bears' defense isn't that great. We have turned a corner the last few weeks with Montez Sweat. I think the Bears' defense has definitely performed admirable against a lot of teams that people aren't really noticing. I mean, you think about this, man. The last 5 games since the Vikings, the last 5 games Tyson Bagent started, he went 3-3, by the way, which is pretty impressive for an undrafted rookie. So let's give him some credit. Tyson Bagent, he's had ups and downs, but he's an undrafted rookie from Shepherd University. This is probably the last time we'll kind of talk about him this year, most likely. But, yeah, I mean, they held the Raiders to 12 points. Yeah, the Chargers scored 30. The Saints scored 24. But the Saints also, they turned the ball over 5 times and they still won. Our offense couldn't get a production. Time management.
Well, just right now, looking at the stats, the Bears are in last place for rushing defense, and they are in, one second, let me look at yards per attempt here.
Where are you looking at this?
NFL.com. 2023. Where are they in passing? I'm looking. They're in the top half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They're in 12th for passing defense.
Which,
defense is still not great.
No, it's not great.
It's getting better. I'm not saying they're like horrible. They're getting better.
They are getting better. And that's where I'm trying to get my point at. I'm just saying, with the Montez Sweat acquisition, I think it has turned our defense around in a way. I think Montez Sweat has been really good for the Chicago Bears. Our front seven is getting to the quarterback. And I do think that we have a potential of upsetting the Detroit Lions this week. But against the Panthers, it was 16-13. Yeah, two shitty teams going at it on Thursday night. I don't know why they keep putting the Bears on primetime. Keep saying that. Take us off fucking primetime football.
I am officially okay with not having primetime games as my season is over. So on Sunday, I get to sit here, I get to watch football, and I get to relax. So Bears play at noon as much as you want.
There you go. Yeah, and we have one more primetime game. It's against the Vikings. But no, and I'm okay. Like, this was a win-win game for us. And I know we talked about it a lot because we were doing it. But winning 16-13, Cairo Santos had a great game. I mean, he scored the majority of our points. Tyson Bagent had that one dump off to Deontay Foreman for the touchdown. But I got faith for the first time this year. Again, like, I know we're 3-7, but I don't care if we this is where I'm at with the Chicago Bears. I know we're not a playoff team, but I want Justin Fields to come out and look like our franchise quarterback. Because one, I don't want to start over with another quarterback. I don't. I'm tired of starting over with a rookie quarterback. I'm tired of the cycle. I'm tired of this shit. I just want the Bears to stick with the quarterback. I don't care if he has up and down years. Lamar Jackson had up and down years until he finally figured it out. And now he looks like an MVP. Like, he won the MVP in 2019, and he looks like he might win it again this year. I don't want, look at the Cleveland Browns right now. They traded away Baker Mayfield that was perfectly fine in Cleveland. And guess what? Deshaun Watson, he's been battling injuries all year, and now guess what? He's out for the whole year. So this is my mindset. I need Justin Fields to go out and show everybody, hey, before I got hurt, I threw 8 touchdowns and 2 interceptions in 2 games, and I can keep doing that. And I'm not saying he's going to do that every single game for the rest of the year, because if he did that, we probably might be fighting for a playoff spot. But
Slow down.
But no, well, and that's what I'm just saying. I think he'll go out. He'll have one game that he throws 300 yards, 3 TDs, no interceptions. And then I do think he'll go out and he'll struggle, and it'll be 200 yards, 1 TD, 2 interceptions. You got to take the bad with the good. And I think Justin Fields, and the reason I'm saying, and I'm just going to go straight into the Lions update, if that's cool with you.
Sure.
The reason I think the Lions, I think we upset Detroit. One, the NFC North is so back and forth. It doesn't matter. It's every year it's back and forth. I feel like we split with the NFC North quite often. Either the Bears win one game, Lions win one. Even when the Lions were bad, we would split with Detroit. Even when Green Bay is good, we never split with Green Bay. They always swept us. But the Vikings, we always split. Even when the Vikings were good, we would always split with the Minnesota Vikings. So I think this is just that one game that I think we come out and we beat them. Because, one, they're coming off a very emotional win against the Chargers. The Lions, they won 41-38 with the last-second field goal. Justin Fields is coming back. We see how the football team, like Chicago, reacts to Justin Fields being on the field. And with him being gone for 4 weeks, I think we're coming out with a lot of juice. And that doesn't even show the potential of DJ Moore, which has been he's been okay, but he's been quieter with Tyson Bagent. That's Justin Fields. He was perfect with Justin Fields when Justin Fields was throwing him the ball.
Do you think Fields being out for 4 weeks is going to hurt him at all when it comes to trying to get back into the swing of things? Or do you think he comes back in and is just going to mesh perfectly after 4 weeks of nothing?
No, dude, and this is the crazy thing. I think it was the most beneficial thing for him. And you want to know why? He overthinks shit. He overthinks everything. I've noticed that. That's Justin Fields' biggest fault is he's a big overthinker. And I can portray because I'm a big overthinker. This guy is going to come out, and we even said it. His first 2 years, he looked like a competent quarterback because he wasn't bogged down with, oh, you got to do this. You can't run the ball. You can't do this. You got to stay in the pocket. You got to worry about this. I think he's just going to go out and he's going to play the style of football he knows how to play. And if that's 100 yards rushing and a win against Detroit, I will take that any day of the week. But
we'll take a win against Detroit any day of the week.
Yeah,
that's a no-brainer. Of course we're going to take a win. You can't not take a win.
For sure. So, I do think, this was so beneficial for Justin Fields to sit out and watch. Even if he's watching from an undrafted rookie, he's still learning. I mean, it's the NFL. There's always going to be a learning curve. And so I think
there's always something to be like, hey, this play didn't work out. Like, what could we have done differently? What should we be looking at? No, there's always learning opportunity, whether you're actually in there doing it or just watching it later, watching yourself or watching somebody else. There's always stuff to be looking for, understanding, kind of getting into it. But would that not cause him to be overthinking then still? If he's on the side watching everything, he's like, okay, yep, know this, know that. Would he not be going in after 4 weeks and nothing? You don't think he'll be overthinking anything?
I truly don't, man. I truly think we're going to see a Justin Fields masterclass this week. And if I'm wrong, you could just rip me into shreds next podcast.
I mean, I hope you're not. I want to win some game. I know I want the picks. I don't mind losses at this point, truly. The more we lose, whatever. We're getting a higher pick out of it. But at the same time, I'm not going to argue with getting a win. I'm always going to take a win.
For sure. I just want Justin Fields to go out and go beat Detroit, beat Minnesota, lose to Detroit, beat Cleveland, beat Arizona, beat Atlanta, and beat Green Bay, and we're 8-9. And I'm cool with that. That might be optimistic. Him going 5-2 down the stretch.
I think that is very optimistic.
But I'm such a Justin Fields homer, dude. And you know that. I know you know that. And I know you're on the fence with Justin. But I also know you came into the year believing 98% in Justin Fields. I need you to get back there. Because I do think he is.
For me to get back there, he has to show me something. I'm not going to be there right now with watching 4 games with Tyson Bagent and Justin Fields on the sideline. That's not going to make me a Justin believer.
For sure. Well, and it's funny. We saw 4 games of Tyson Bagent, and we still don't know how to pronounce his last name. You just said,
yeah, I know.
Tyson Bagent. I don't know. It's one of the two.
Bagent more often than I do Bagent, so I think it's Bagent.
I'm just going off what Kirk Herbstreit said on Thursday night, and he said Bagent, and I'm like, that's it. It's Bagent. But
it's the same. It's the same thing with Iowa's receiver Reganey or Raganini or whatever the heck. It's what is your last name exactly? I've heard it 5 different ways in my life.
For sure. But no, I do hope we go out and beat Detroit Lions. I actually think, dude, that we have a good shot to shock the world this week. Because guess what? Detroit, they play Philadelphia the next week. They're going to – I think this is a trap game for Detroit. I hope
so. You say trap game more than I've ever heard anyone say trap game in my life.
Well, I'm just hoping it's a trap game. I don't know, man. I got faith in Justin Fields, and I'm
pretty sure I've heard you. This is a little off top, but I'm pretty sure I've heard you call something a trap game when you were talking about the favored team winning. That's not a trap game. Favored team what? Stop saying trap game. You are obsessed with saying trap game.
Well, it's a game, and it's potentially a game that the Detroit Lions could lose. And I got a feeling that we got a good shot, and that's all I'm saying.
I'm hoping for a win. I'd love to see it. I want to see Justin do well. Wilkie, I don't know. I'm hoping to see some good things. I'm always hoping to see the Bears do some good things, but like I said, any losses the remainder of the season, I'm okay with just for the sake of, let's get some picks. Let's get this team rolling next year. But going back to recapping a little bit, one more game I thought mentioning recap-wise, Bills versus Broncos. What the hell is wrong with the Buffalo Bills right now? They actually lost to the Broncos 24-22. Now, are the Broncos just turning it on? Are they starting to flip things around a little bit? Or are the Bills, like, just in crisis?
No, so I think a mixture of both, in my opinion. One, the Buffalo Bills fired their offensive coordinator after this game. Ken Dorsey, he's gone. Joe Brady's the interim offense coordinator. He was actually the OC for the LSU Tigers during Joe Burrow and the 2019 Tigers.
And he was also the Bills' quarterback coach.
Yeah, he was the Bills' quarterback coach. So one thing with this is Josh Allen is not having a good year. And we saw the decline of Josh Allen last year. And we said, oh, it's Josh Allen. He'll figure it out. Well, he's not figuring it out. And I'm ready to compare him to someone that people might think this is insane. But I'm seeing a lot more Jay Cutler than I am seeing Dan Marino right now and Josh Allen. Jay Cutler had the cannon arm. He could throw 300, 400 yards a game, have 3 TDs. But the next game he'd go out and he'd have 180 yards and 3 picks.
Well, and that's the thing with this game, too, is the Bills, when you look at the stats, the Bills actually had more total yards than the Broncos did. More total yards. They had more passing yards, more yards per play. More rushing yards. Passing yards, they were one off. So, like, they were pretty much tied for passing yards. Yeah. But more yards per play, all the stats looked completely in favor of the Bills except for one. There was one stat that favored the Broncos. Can you guess what it was?
Turnovers.
2 interceptions, 2 fumbles by the Bills, only 1 turnover. I think it was an interception by the Broncos. So, yeah, great. Your offense, in theory, beat the Broncos. Your offense did. You beat the Broncos offense. But you turned it over 4 fucking times, and that's not how you win games.
Well, and then on the flip side of things, you said, is it the Broncos turning it on, or is it the Bills in complete disarray? If you look back at the last 3 games, the Broncos have won 3 games straight. And it was against the Packers, the Chiefs, and the Bills. And so right now, like the Broncos, I think the major aspect is whenever you get a new coach, how good that coach is, there's always a learning curve, and it always takes time to buy into their system and the way they do things. And I think the Denver Broncos are finally buying in to Sean Payton. And Russell Wilson has turned it around officially. I don't know if he's back to the Seattle Seahawks Russell Wilson that led him to the Super Bowls and the playoffs.
Maybe not quite.
But he is turning it around from being one of the worst quarterbacks in the league to a decent starting quarterback. And he knows where to go to the ball. And I think their relationship is growing between Sean Payton and Russell Wilson. And it's fun to see the Broncos good. Like, I do like the Denver Broncos. Like, it's kind of weird because in a weird way, Colorado Buffaloes started losing, and then the Denver Broncos have picked it up, which is really cool to see.
I mean, in theory, when you think about it, last year both teams were just atrocious.
That's fair. But yeah, no, I actually am in support of the Denver Broncos right now, and they do have a good shot. They have a good shot at making the playoffs.
I mean, just like you said, look at the past 3 opponents they beat. They're all, well, not the Packers. Packers suck now.
Yeah.
But, like, taking down the Chiefs and the Bills, even though the Bills do look like they're having their issues, like, that's some good momentum going right there. 3 wins, sure, but 2 of those wins being really high caliber, like, big team wins, you got a really good shot. Honestly, the Broncos, I think they do make the playoffs at this rate.
Well, and that's funny that you say because they do play the most hottest team in the NFL right now, and the Minnesota Vikings this week.
But first, let's go in order here. Bills versus Jets will be the Sunday afternoon game, 3:25. Will Joe Brady do a better job than Dorsey, or is that not an issue of the coordinator position? Thoughts?
I don't think it was Ken Dorsey. I think it's Josh Allen. I think something ever since he lost Brian Dable, his offensive coordinator that created Josh Allen, that taught him from when he was a rookie. Like, I think he's just been in complete disarray. And I think The New York Jets is not a team you want to face because they're scrappy. I know they lost to the Raiders last week, but that's on with the interim head coach, and the Raiders are fighting for a bigger purpose than the Jets are right now. They're just hanging on with Zach Wilson until Aaron Rodgers comes back, if he comes back this year.
Yeah.
That defense, though, for the New York Jets is scary. Like, they are a top 5 defense in the NFL. So when you come off the Denver Broncos, which are kind of figuring it out on the defensive side, and then you go and face a top 5 defense, and your confidence is in the shitter, and Stephon Diggs is taking shots at you on Instagram, that's not a place you want to be.
No,
it's not a place you want to be at all. And
this is definitely the danger zone for the Bills right now and Josh Allen. And if I were Joe Brady, I'd be a little bit nervous too because, like you said, I don't know if there's much a coordinator can do. Like, if it's a quarterback issue, like, what do you want me to call? Like, what am I calling? Like, this could potentially be a real hot game for him because if they don't score many points against the Jets at all, you got to be thinking, did we make a mistake?
Well, and here's this. You ready for this? This is do or die for the Buffalo Bills. This is the make or break of the season because they are 5-5 right now. Do you want to hear their next 4 opponents? The New York Jets, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Dallas Cowboys, and the Los Angeles Chargers.
So a lot of good and very hot teams right now.
Yeah. So very realistically, they could be 5-6, 5-7, 5-8, 5-9, 5-10 within the next 5 weeks if the Bills don't figure it out against the New York Jets this week. And that's scary. That is a scary situation to be in because we've been so used to the Buffalo Bills being a constant playoff team. The last 4 years, the Bills have been in the playoffs for the last 4 years. If we don't see this year or this week against the New York Jets, the Bills might end up having their season go down the drain.
And that's a lot of pressure on that interim OC. Like, hey, you got this great high caliber competition that we're expecting you to score some points with Josh Allen. Good luck. And I'm curious to see how that goes, what happens there. But getting into the next game, that evening slot on Sunday, as you mentioned, Broncos versus Vikings. 2 teams that are kind of hot right now.
Yeah, man. So the Broncos, we kind of talked about the Broncos, so I just want to jump right into the Vikings here. The Vikings, man, they are on a 5-game win streak right now. 3 of them came from quarterback Kirk Cousins having a great year, and then he went down with the injury, right? And then they make that trade for Josh Dobbs, which he did it again last week against the Saints, 27-19. And, man, they're fun to watch. I hate it because, like, they're the Vikings. Like, they're in the NFC North. But they're fun to watch right now. And it all started with the Chicago Bears win when Justin Fields went out hurt. And they just kept rolling from here. To be honest, I think this is where the Vikings' hot streak ends. I do think Denver beats them in this game.
I think Denver's hot streak is hotter than the Vikings right now. Like you said, they just beat the Bills and the Chiefs, 2 of the arguably hotter teams in the AFC. Yeah, just AFC. I don't need to add a direction. But no, so the Vikings, like, they're good, but ultimately Josh Dobbs, they do have a backup quarterback in there.
They do.
Not that they would be a ton better off with Cousins, but I don't know. Broncos heat is a lot more. But the big thing too, I was having a thought. Oh, Justin Jefferson, he's back this week, isn't he?
No,
not yet.
One more week.
Week.
He comes back against the Chicago Bears, actually.
Oh, fun.
So that's lovely. But wouldn't it be poetic if the Broncos do lose this week and then the Vikings lose to the Chicago Bears on Monday Night Football? So when their hot streak started, like, we just end it and we're like, all right, well, your 6-game win streak, it's over. Chicago wins it. It's fine. But I don't know if you can consider Josh Dobbs a backup quarterback at this rate.
He's technically started all year.
He started all year. And so that's what I was about to say. Like, I do not think he's a backup quarterback because he hasn't looked like a backup quarterback. Usually backup quarterbacks, they come in, they, have like 2 or 3 good games where you're like, well, maybe he could be a starter, but then like the other shoe drops. And it's like, oh, Yeah, this is why you're a backup quarterback, because you can't put it together all year. Josh Dobbs has put it together all year. And so I think Josh Dobbs, not only because I know the Vikings were like considering moving on from Kirk Cousins, I think the rest of this year he's auditioning for the Minnesota Vikings to be their starting quarterback of the future. And so, like, with that being said, I think Josh Dobbs has a lot more to play for than Russell Wilson right now, because I don't think Russ is, like, after what they've done the last couple of weeks, I think Russ's job is safe, specifically only because of his contract.
Yeah, no, Russ's job is plenty safe. Like, he's still Russell Wilson. Like you said, he might not necessarily be the same Super Bowl winning Seattle Seahawk Russell Wilson, but that guy is in there somewhere, and obviously he's showing a little bit or flashes of it right now, so I think he would be fine. I do like Dobbs as a Viking a little bit, though. I want him to start somewhere. Like you say, he's been doing a good job. He's a smart guy. He's a fucking astronaut, for crying out loud. But I think he's more than deserving to be a starting NFL quarterback.
I agree 100%. So, like, that's going to be a game to circle and watch, and I'm glad it's on Sunday Night Football. Should be a good game to watch.
Now, next night, Monday Night Football, we will have Chiefs versus Eagles. Two powerhouses, arguably what could be a Super Bowl this year.
The Kelce Bowl.
Yes, the Kelce Bowl.
Oh, man, this is going to be the best Monday Night Football we probably see all year. And watch it turn out to be the worst game ever. Watch it being like 13-10, like boring game. They went on like a last-second field goal.
How can you say that when we watch Iowa play every fucking week? They end games like 10-3.
That is fair. There is not much of a game that can get worse than that. But no, I'm excited, man. I think that's going to be a good game. One, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Matt Nagy has hurt the Kansas City Chiefs this year. Their offense has not looked the same without Eric Bieniemy. It's still Patrick Mahomes. It's still Travis Kelce. I mean, they still have a good team there, and they have good players there. But Matt Nagy has hurt from the play calling standpoint. I'll go into my other section is the Philadelphia Eagles, though. They've also struggled. Jalen Hurts has had an up and down year, but they're still two of the best teams in the NFL. And I do think
both having a little bit of a struggle this year compared to last, but also Super Bowl matchup.
Yeah, rematch. Well, and how can we say struggle when we're Bears and Iowa fans and they still put up 22, 23 points a game?
Because we can view with relativity and we can look at last year and say, oh, they looked a little better last year. They must be struggling.
But I do think that this is the Eagles coming out game. And I do think Jalen Hurts shows everybody, hey, this is why I'm here in Philadelphia. I am the Eagles starting quarterback. I think Jalen Hurts is still a top 10 quarterback in the NFL.
Oh, easily.
Maybe top 5. I think he's still top 5 quarterback in the NFL. And to be honest, at the end of both of these guys' career, I think Jalen Hurts might have more Super Bowl wins than Patrick Mahomes. And that's a bold statement, but
there's a decent chance of it. I would not disagree with that, though, especially just thinking about everybody else that he has around him, helping him pull it off and get there. I think there's a very, very strong case that he ends up with another ring. But we will find that out on Monday night. That is all the time we have for you guys today. We will go ahead and wrap it up. Please like and subscribe. Go watch last week if you didn't. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you think about this week's episode. We want to hear your guys' feedback. Please leave your reviews.
Well, you kind of took my thunder there with like and subscribe. So I got 2 words to say. Bear